So, our today's topic is process of weathering and different types of weathering. Weathering is the breaking down or dissolving of rocks on the surface of the earth. The earth's lithosphere is composed of varieties of rocks and the related relief features. Relief features are distinct landforms depicting the nature of parent rocks and the geological processes that have created them. In the plate tectonics theory, we have learned the formation of different landforms and the nature of rocks present in each landform depends on the geological process that have created the landform. The relief of any land is not permanent on the surface of the earth. Every block of rock is subjected to aerial actions and modifications. Over a period of geological times, these surface blocks and rocks break down into smaller and finer pieces and move away from the sources. And this is nothing but the process of weathering. So, weathering is an important geological mechanism which can destabilize the Earth's surface materials and remove them by erosive processes. Weathering is the physical disintegration and chemical decomposition of a rock mass on the land. So, when these rocks dissolve or break down, their chemical composition also changes or gets modified. Weathering is a collective term used to denote the mechanical, chemical, and biological processes that take place on the Earth's surface. Weathering of rock forming minerals can create new products from pre existing rocks. So, what are the factors influence the weathering actions? So, first one is topography. Topography is nothing but the nature of the surface or the features on the surface of a land. The second one is the climatic conditions, temperature, and humidity. Then comes the physical characteristics of rocks. Then another factor is chemical and structural characteristics of rocks. Includes their mineralogy and structural features. And the last one is vegetation, their abundance and type, including the micro and macro vegetation on a land. Now, what are the impacts of weathering? Several modifications are made on the pre existing rocks by mechanical forces, chemical reactions, and biological interactions during the process of weathering. So, here itself we can understand that the weathering can be caused by mechanical forces, chemical reactions, and biological interactions. Weathering destabilizes the surface materials and encourages their removal by erosion. Erosion is done by geological agents like running water, wind, glaciers, and water waves. An important impact of weathering is the formation of soils and sediments. The soils are the products of weathering. Weathering creates both soils and other loose rock fragments. Another impact of weathering is the chemical modification. Weathering releases several chemical compounds from the parent rocks and leave them to support the biological processes. Now we shall see the different types of weathering. So, weathering is a general term for all these processes, and weathering can be broadly classified as physical weathering, chemical weathering, and biological weathering. Physical weathering is also known as mechanical weathering. Physical weathering can occur due to temperature, pressure, frost, etc. So, these are the agents of physical weathering. Living organisms may contribute to mechanical weathering. For example, some small rocks break down when some large animals walk on them. Physical weathering is also called as mechanical weathering. Mechanical weathering is related to the physical breakup of rocks into small pieces and fragments. In physical weathering, there is no change in the chemistry of the parent rock. So, physical weathering is basically the physical breakdown of rocks into small pieces. There's no change in the chemical composition of the parent rock. The physical characteristics of rocks also influence the process of physical weathering. The characteristics are differential composition, particle size, the hardness, and degree of cementation. All these characteristics may change, but no change in the chemical composition. Some rock bodies are very resistant due to their strong physical properties. Physical weathering happens especially in places where there is little soil and few plants grow, such as mountain regions and hot deserts. So, plants and trees prevent weathering to a certain limit. They prevent the physical weathering. So, in mountain regions and hot deserts, physical weathering occurs largely. The types of physical weathering include abrasion, crystallization, root wedging, insulation weathering, human mining, animal activity, tumbling, compressional stress, crushing waves, and tensional stress. So let's see the three major mechanisms that cause physical weathering. The first one is freezing and thawing. So, what is freezing and thawing? First, water soaks into the cracks or cavities of the rocks. So, firstly, water occupies the cavities and cracks of the rocks, and then when the temperature falls low during night, etc., the water inside the cavities or cracks freezes. So, when the water inside the cavities or cracks freezes, it turns into ice. When water freezes into ice, its volume gets increased by 9%. That is, the volume of water inside the cracks and cavities increases, and as a result of this, it expands or it thaws in the cracks and may push hard enough to split the rock into many fragments. So, in short, freezing of water happens first, then the expansion or thawing of water in the cracks or cavities causes the weathering. So, the second major mechanism is root wedging. Roots of the trees or big plants can penetrate through the cracks of rocks to depths of several meters. As the roots grow, they exert a tremendous amount of pressure on the walls of the cracks. This breaks them into pieces. So, here the weathering is due to the strong roots of the plants or trees. So, the another major mechanism is heat spalling. So here, heat from the forest fires will cause the outer surface layers of the rock to expand quickly and break away in spalls. So this is basically due to the heat, and it is the process of spalling of the outer surface of the rocks due to the heat. So the next type of weathering is chemical weathering. Chemical and structural characteristics of minerals present in rocks are also expected to play a significant role in weathering. Chemical weathering changes the composition of rocks, often transforming them when water interacts with their minerals to create various chemical reactions. So, chemical weathering is basically the change in the chemical composition of the parent rock and change in the mineralogy. Chemical weathering is a gradual and ongoing process as the mineralogy of the rock adjusts to the near surface environment. Lichens and mosses that are growing on bare rock surface surfaces may create a more humid chemical microenvironment. So, the chemical weathering happens more in a humid and wet environment because the temperature and the presence of water promote many chemical reactions. For example, gypsum is a type of mineral that is soluble in water. It gets dissolved and removed in solution under high rainfall. So, gypsum gets converted into the solution form under heavy rainfall. Ferromagnesium minerals, that are minerals containing more iron and magnesium, are more susceptible to chemical weathering than feldspar and quartz. Feldspar and quartz are minerals that contain more silica. Less tightly packed minerals like olivine and biotite are easily weathered as compared to tightly packed zircon and muscovite. That means here the chemical weathering also depends on the atomic structure of the minerals. The easily weatherable minerals disappear on account of intense chemical weathering, and more resistant products, hydrous oxides of Fe and Al, tend to accumulate. That is, as a result of chemical weathering, more reactive minerals disappear and more stable compounds are formed. Climate controls the dominant type of vegetation, which in turn controls the biochemical reactions in soils and mineral weathering. So, the climate and the vegetation also affects the chemical weathering. The rate of chemical weathering depends on various factors like temperature, amount of surface area, and availability of water or natural acid. Now, the major processes involved in the chemical weathering are solution, oxidation, hydration, hydrolysis, and carbonation. So, solution, as we know, solution is the process of dissolving mineral constituents by water or acid. So, here the minerals in the solid form gets dissolved in water or in any natural acid. And what is oxidation? The atmospheric oxygen and the oxygen present in water combines with the metal ions of minerals to form oxides or hydroxides. So basically oxidation is the reaction of minerals with oxygen and the formation of oxides of that particular mineral. Next one is hydration. Rain, streams, and seawater dissolve minerals from rocks, causing the rocks to crumble. Basically, the dissolution of minerals in water. Hydrolysis, due to the dissociation of H2O into H plus and OH minus ions, which chemically combine with minerals and bring out changes such as exchange, decomposition of crystalline structure, and formation of new compounds. It is called hydrolysis. When the water dissociates into H plus and OH minus ions, compounds in the minerals react with these H plus or OH minus ions, and the formation of new compounds is called hydrolysis. The last process is carbonation. Carbonation is the reaction of carbonates or carbonate ions with minerals. So this is about chemical weathering. So, the last type of weathering is biological weathering. Unlike physical and chemical weathering, the biological or living agents are responsible for the decomposition and disintegration of rocks and minerals. The biological life is mainly controlled largely by the prevailing environment. So, here the biological agents cause the weathering. Biological weathering comprises a group of processes that are caused by or assisted by the presence of vegetation or to a lesser extent animals and the production of organic acids. A large number of animals, birds, insects, and worms, and their activities they make holes in them and thus the aids for weathering. In tropical and subtropical regions, ants and termites build galleries and passages and carry materials from lower to upper surface and excrete acids. Rabbits, by burrowing into the ground, destroy the soft rocks. Molds, ants, and bodies of the dead animals provide substances which react with minerals and aid in decaying processes. The earthworms pass the soil through the alimentary canal and thus bring about physical and chemical changes in the soil materials. In early stages of mineral decomposition and soil formation, the lower forms of plants and animals like mosses, bacteria, fungi, and actinomycetes play an important role. So, all these animals, worms, birds, mosses, and bacteria, fungi, everything contributes to weathering. The mosses, etc., extract nutrients from the rock and from air and live with a small quantity of water. This organism is closely associated with the decay of plant and animal remains and thus liberates nutrients for the use of next generation plants and also produces CO2 and organic compounds which aid in mineral decomposition. So here we are talking about the mosses and the bacteria. Organisms can assist in breaking down the rocks into sediments or soils. Lichens, fungi, and other microorganisms are the typical examples. So, all these are examples of biological weathering. So, this is all about the process of weathering and different types of weathering.